The region said that they're gonna have a meeting and then they're gonna let us know what happened. So when I know, I'll let you know. The hand sanitizer, I think, in my car.
I thought that was so lifted. I didn't want people to
Hello. Margaret.
Hey, Kristen.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good, good.
Thanks for getting me in today. I know I sent it this morning. I should have
No
did it.
worries. It's okay. No worries at all. It's not working for me today, so.
Hi there.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good.
Is this the first time you guys have taken this class?
Yes.
Okay. So it's completely different than what I've taught before. It's all new stuff.
Good.
New slideshow, new everything.
Right.
Yeah.
First time taking the class, but my second disc assessment, my last one was 10 years ago, and this one was identical.
Oh, wow. Okay. Was it the same company that did them?
No, different company. I actually it's funny, I dug my disc assessment up like a few weeks ago because I said, I know I saved this, I just want to read it. But there's just so many pages. So in any case, and then I saw this and I thought, I'm going to try it and see how different it is. And it's almost exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this will be interesting to walk through it though, because I never really had the opportunity last time.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about like how to use it with your clients too.
Cool.
Yeah, I can't take the disc anymore because I know how to manipulate it. I can have it come out whatever way I want. So I can't take the money. I can't take it.
I probably should have had another coffee before I took it.
Did you?
I was looking at it and I was like, wow.
Did you read it? Have you had a chance to read it? I know there's a lot of pages.
I just glanced at it and I was like, oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
So interesting. I have taken it, oh gosh, over 10 years ago, and I think it was a bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Kristen, will you show us too, because I did go through it, but even with my last one, I had a hard time finding where I was, like I guess I didn't know what page was like the page that would tell me, am I high or am I low?
Yeah, so I don't remember what page it is because they've changed the number of pages now, but it's the one that has the graph. It says it's an adaptive and a natural graph. And if you go down a few pages on the right-hand side, you'll see mini graphs. That's what it is. But go to the big one. It's the same exact one as the one on the mini graphs. It might be page 40 something. I don't have one handy to see what the page is, but yeah, let me see.
It's that
No,
right there.
no, not that one. Nope. That's a different graph. So
I'm going to bring mine up.
Okay, I'll look. I'm looking everywhere.
yeah, so go to the beginning of the packet. The end of the packet's that's a whole nother class. But the beginning
Is this the
packet,
talent one, the sales part?
Yeah.
You're doing first? Okay.
Yeah, I'm only just doing the one, the disc. If you go into a few pages and there'll be two graphs and it'll be adaptive and a natural style graph.
I think that's page 29.
Page 29.
29. Let's see.
Hi, who else is joining us on the iPhone? Hello.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. It's Deb Shuttlesworth.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good, thank you.
I'm going to be on the road in a few, so I joined on my iPhone.
Okay, no problem. Did you find it?
So I have the wheel, and then that's page 30, but I have
it's before that. The whole wheel's.
Yep, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the whole wheel, all that stuff. We're not talking about that. The end of the back of the packet. So it's the beginning. So page 23?
Yep, so I have 28. I have the adaptive style and the natural style.
Okay,
the two
it may be
graphs
different.
29. Yeah.
Yep, that's it.
Okay.
That's the one. Yeah, so anything over the 50 line.
Got it. Yep. So now I see. Now I'm understanding this.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Where are those documents, Kristen?
You had to have taken the disc
Oh,
from the email I sent.
I didn't get the email. Can I email you later for it or text you?
Diana should have it.
Oh, okay.
Just ask her. She'll send it over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome. All right, we'll get going just because you guys are on time. All right. So welcome to the disc class. Hi, Tyler.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Your first disc class?
Yeah, I've taken it a couple years ago, but I've just wanted to see what was going on here.
Okay, awesome. So today we're going to talk about the disc. I do have a slideshow for you guys, and then we'll unshare my screen because I really rather talk to you guys than have it this way, but let me just adjust you here so I can see you. I hate just talking to myself, All right. There's Bill. He knows I'm going to talk about him today, so that's why he jumped on. All right, so the universal language of behavior is called the DISC, okay? There is no right or wrong to this, okay? Everybody has all 4 categories within themselves as personality traits, okay? So even though you may be more of one and less of another, doesn't mean you don't have that trait within you, okay? But what we usually look at is what the most dominant one is of your personality trait, okay? So this is going to come through slow, so we're just going to click this through here. Okay, so the goals are to understand the DISC personalities. We'll go through each one of them. We'll also talk about how you can identify who your clients are by asking certain questions. And also I have an elevator script at the end that I'm going to share with you so you can actually quickly go through that with your client to identify what personality type they are right away. Okay. How to adjust your language and communication based on the DISC personality we're going to talk about, and understanding yourself better. Okay. I'm sure there's things that we all look and go, oh, I wish I didn't talk so much, or I wish I could stop doing that, or whatever, So at least you're aware. Okay, I'm talking about myself. I talk a lot. But at least you're aware of it. And now it's more about, okay, when I'm around certain people, how can I, kind of be more like them? Okay. So again, understanding yourself, understanding others, adapt your style for more effective results in your business and your relationship, okay? And it will help you treat people the way they want to be treated, okay? All right, and then here's just a list of why, in what fields and what categories, coaching and relationships and management and team building. To understand the DISC is going to help you in all of these categories. Okay, because you're dealing with people, and in our business, that's what we deal with, is people, right? So I know that a lot of times people will say, oh, well, I didn't get the listing because of price. Was it really because of price, or was it because you were being too much of yourself and that person didn't have that connection with you? Okay, so we'll talk about that as well. All right, does that say golden rule? I can't see because you guys are, can you see it? Okay, so what's the golden rule? We can participate. You don't have to be on mute.
Treat others the way you'd like to be treated.
What's that?
Treat others the way you would like to be treated.
Yep. Yep.
Mirror them.
Do unto others as you would have them done unto you, right? So
that's how it is in the Bible.
Yeah, right, exactly. So it is. Treat people the way that you want to be treated, right? Makes sense, right? Yep. We all learned that. We all grew up that way. Our parents told us to do that, right? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now, they're assuming, by saying that, we're assuming that people are like us when we do that, right? So like, let's say if I'm going to treat Tyler the way that I want to be treated, doesn't mean Tyler wants to be treated that way, but I'm putting how I want to be treated onto somebody else that I don't even know how they want to feel about it. So even though we were brought up that way, when it comes to communication, that's not the way that you should think. It should be the platinum rule. Do you know what the platinum rule is?
Don't follow the golden rule.
It's the
Sorry.
opposite. Yeah. Do unto others as they would want done to them. Okay, this is all about them, not us. So when we're communicating with people, when we're building relationships, when we're dealing with clients, we should mirror and match, right? We learned that from Bold, and be more like them so they feel that they have a connection with us. If we throw ourselves and our own personalities onto others, we're not going to get the results that we want all the time because we're all different. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So you want to communicate with them in the preferred way of them, not you. Okay. And that's really the basis of what the DISC is. Okay. You want to adapt your delivery, your words, and your communication when you're talking to certain people based on their personality type. Okay. All right. So we talked about the graph a little bit. I just made up my own little graph here, okay? So when you did the assessment, it was on page 2930, okay? If you took that assessment, and you're gonna get a graph, okay? And the black line that goes across the middle is the 50% line, okay? So anything on your graph over that line is what your dominant trait is. It doesn't mean you don't have the others. So in this case, this person is a high I, high D, or high ID, okay? Doesn't mean that they're not compliant or they don't care about their family, S and C on that side, but it just means that their dominant behavior is ID. And we're gonna talk about what they mean, but I just wanna kind of give you an idea of what the graph looks like and what that means, okay? So anything over the graph. The next one here would be a high CSI, because there's 3 over the line. You shouldn't see any that are 4 over the line. That's not, maybe there was something wrong with the test or what you weren't paying attention when you were doing or something. But the most that you would have over the line would be 3. So they either be 1, 2, or 3, okay? But never 4. All right, so this type of person, just to kind of give you, like, connect it with somebody, would be a really good admin. Okay, this is what you would look for like an admin, okay? This one's a high S, so they just have the S. So high S, then their next, dominant trait would be C, but it's under the line, so we don't really talk about that when we're talking about someone's personality. They would just be a high S, and that's what you would want to focus on, not any of the ones below the line. Does that make sense? So far, so good?
Mhm.
All right, awesome. All right, so what do you think happens when a person is stressed?
Male or female?
Ah, funny. Yeah, good point. No, both. Do you think their dominant personality trait comes out more pronounced or less pronounced?
More.
Anybody think less? Everyone thinks more. Wow, you guys are so smart. Yes, more. Yeah, so when you are under stress, your personality type will come up more. So for an example, if you are under stress, let's say you're a high D, and you're under stress and you are in a rush and whatnot, and you just, everything kind of like exacerbates, right? So like, it's like it comes out more, and sometimes you can't control it. So you have to learn to kind of take it back a little bit. So let's say if you were a high C, for instance, and you were very like a compliant person, and you were making a big decision, like buying a house, right? Normally you would be an easygoing person because you would be a high C, okay? But if you're in stress, your dominant style, which is C, would skyrocket through the roof, and you'd start to be very compliant. You want to make sure everything's right, numbers make sense, and you're going to really focus on those things. So sometimes, like if we're working with a client and, we say, wow, we've been working so good together, now all of a sudden they're like a totally different person. It's probably because they're under stress, because when they weren't under stress, you didn't notice it as much. Okay. So for instance, like I said, a high C who likes to know a lot about numbers and be very compliant and very detailed. If they're going to purchase a home and they have to read a contract and make a decision on either selling their house or buying a house, they're not going to do it super quickly, and they're going to get very stressed about it. And if we put more stress on them to kind of push them, it's going to make their C come out more. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to be careful that it's going to it happens to us too. So you want to be careful that your dominant trait doesn't come out when you're working with clients if you're the one that's stressed. If there are things within the transaction that are stressing you out, and you go and call your client and kind of maybe flip out on them or tell them, or start talking too much and telling them things that really you probably shouldn't be telling them yet because you're just going to get them anxious, you have to learn to dial that back, because that can really blow up. Okay. Right, Bill? Bill's shaking his head.
Yep.
Yeah. So you have to be careful. If you are calling your client and you're not in a calm manner and keeping your emotions between the lines, don't call them. Okay. Be very aware of what your dominant personality type is. And if it's not going to mesh with your client, then you need to kind of sit down and think about how you're going to call them and what you're going to say. Okay.
Curb your emotions.
What's that?
Curb your emotions. Is what I
Exactly.
was taught.
Yep. Exactly. So when dealing with during the real estate transaction, again, you want to make sure that you are aware of what your client's personality is, okay? Because that's going to determine how you're going to act throughout the transaction or how they're going to want to be communicated with, right? So like, for instance, a high I likes to be on the phone and they like to talk a lot, right? And again, some of you might not know this yet, so we haven't got into it. But then a C may want to be in person and talk to you and not do it over the phone. So you have to really be conscious of what they're going to want and adapt to them, okay? All right, so what we're gonna do, you guys have paper and a pen?
Yeah.
All right,
Yep.
so take a piece of paper and a pen and draw this graph. So 4 boxes, D is in the upper left, I is in the upper right, C is in the bottom left, and S is in the bottom right. This is how you're gonna immediately be able to identify the fastest way to identify and eliminate 2 of someone's personality types just by talking to somebody over the phone or face-to-face, okay? All right. So listening to their rate of speech. Can you guys hear that feedback or is it just me? Okay, it's probably just me. All right. So if you have somebody who has a fast, if you are talking with somebody who has a fast and that speaks fast and a very aggressive, you can eliminate them being a C or an S because they're either a D or an I. Okay, so see up top, the D's and I's tend to be very fast and very aggressive. They're always moving and talking very quickly. Okay, they get things done, and you'll be able to know right away if they're one of those. Okay, now on the flip side, the C's and S's, they're very cautious. They speak slowly. They're quieter. Okay, they're deliberate in their communication. So they think about what they're going to say first. Okay. And like I said, they're more on the quiet side where the I's and the D's are louder. Okay. So right away, you'll be able to eliminate what 2 they are not or identify which 2 they could be just by the rate of their speech. Okay. Now, with that said, if you're on the phone with somebody and your tendency is to be steady and cautious and you're talking to someone that's fast and aggressive, you may need to start talking fast and aggressive, okay? And opposite, if you are fast and aggressive and the person that's on the phone is steady and cautious, you would need to dial it down, okay? Because again, we want to mirror match them and we want to be more like them so that they feel comfortable with us. That's how you build that relationship, okay? So always remember rate of speech. It's not easy. Honestly, especially if you're like fast and aggressive, it's very hard to like dial it down. Right, Bill?
Yes.
I stress Bill out on a daily basis. He's an SC and I'm an ID, so we laugh, but I stress him out.
Sometimes it's scary.
And I know that I do it. I do know that I do it. I'm aware, and I try to not do it. I'm working on it, okay?
Oh. And I just need to learn to not take it personally, that sometimes people just need to vent.
Yeah, I'm a good venter. Yeah. Okay. All right. So with that being said, so there was a study that was done and they put in a bunch of slow talkers into a room with a fast talker. It was like a slow talker, fast talker experiment. Okay. So they asked the fast talkers in the room, they had some slow talkers in that room. They asked the fast talkers if they thought that the slower talkers was less intelligent. And they said yes. They thought that slower talkers were less intelligent than they were. Then they did the opposite. They had a room with all slow talkers and brought in some fast talkers. And they asked them, do you trust the fast talkers more or less? And they said, we trust them less. Okay. So either way, the fast talkers think that the slow talkers are, you know, not trustworthy or not as intelligent, and vice versa. Okay, just because of the rate of speech. So again, if you are dealing with a client who is the opposite rate of speech as you, they may not trust you or think you're not intelligent. And those are two things you don't want when you're trying to get a listing, right?
Right.
It's not true, by the way, right? We know it's not true. It's just people's perception of it. So keep that in mind too, okay?
Mhm.
All right. On the left-hand side, where the D's and C's are, that's thinking and task oriented. Okay, so these people get things done and they think about things. They will miss the impact of their actions and thoughts on people. They will do or say things that make other people feel bad. They don't mean it. It's just because they're fast and they're moving and they're doing that they don't really think about it. Okay. Because they focus on the task and thinking, not about others. They don't think about others, okay? They use words like I think or I'll do. They never use words like I feel or I worry about, okay? They don't really worry, okay? They just do, okay? So keep that in mind. If they're saying things about they're probably a DC, okay? On the flip side, on the right-hand side, we've got relationships and people oriented. So the I's and S's are relationship and people oriented, okay? They use feeling words about people, okay? So if it's like, I'm worried about X, it's usually about a person, not a thing. And they use the words, I feel a lot, okay? They're more focused on people than getting things done, okay? Make sense? So by knowing those simple things, you really be able to determine quickly who you're dealing with, okay? So if they're a fast talker and they're very task oriented, you know, they could be a DC. Now, usually you don't, sometimes you'll get like an IS, it's not common, but sometimes you will. Well, INS is probably more common, but like a IC is not very common because they're really pretty much completely opposite. But again, you'll be able to understand what their dominant personality is, but doesn't mean that they don't have the rest in them. And again, they may not all be really high either. Okay. All right. All right. So the D's, let's discuss what the D's are. And for those of you who have taken my class before, which I think it's only one of you, you're going to look at the percentage of the population and go, wait a minute, that's not what you told me last time. Well, apparently there was another study done and this is where we're at. So we'll talk about that later. All right. So the D is for dominance. These people are dominant, direct, and decisive. Okay. Their key emotion is they're quick to anger. Their biggest fear is being taken advantage of. And they're motivated by challenges in the bottom line. Okay. So they're fast moving, they get things done, they make quick decisions, they say things very directly. Okay. They don't think before they speak. Sometimes they just say it in a strong way. Okay. They just don't think things through. Whereas C would, like, before they said anything, really think about what I should say. The D's just say it. Just comes out. Okay. When they're under stress, they're too focused on what needs to get done, so they have blinders on. Okay. So if you know somebody who is normally maybe they talk a lot to you and they're friendly and you think they're high I, and then you see them sometime and they're like busy, like, hey, what's up? And they just walk by you, or they're just wicked focused on something. It's because they're a higher D as well. Their personality dominant trait is also a D. Okay. Sometimes people are like, oh, what a, you know, they call each other names because they think they're being rude or whatever. It's just because the D's just have blinders on when they're in the middle of getting stuff done and they want to get it done as fast as possible. They can leave people with tears in their eyes. Okay. And they're super task oriented. This is so important when you're hiring somebody too, because if you're hiring someone for your team, and let's say you're a high D and the person that you're hiring is a very low D, you're probably going to make them cry like every day. And that's not good for either one of you. So that person probably isn't a good fit for your team. The rule of thumb is about 40 points in each category away from each other, which would be, a really good match for somebody. But I know that a lot of people don't do that, and they don't have the assessment done, and they don't really look at that before they hire someone. They just want to hire people. And that's really not the way to do it. And that's why a lot of people lose a lot of their help a lot of the time. Okay, because the people are not put in the right roles. Okay. They're quick to anger. So it comes out direct and quick, like an arrow. Shoo! Okay, like it just can skyrocket. Like I said, they do literally make people cry. It's not intentional. It's just because they're quick and they just kind of, they say something, they do something, and they move on. They don't think about it again. And again, you have to understand, this is like the highest, when I'm talking about these personalities, this is like the highest one. So if your D is not 100, you're going to, it's not going to be every single thing on this is going to be exactly the case. Okay. But they've already moved on to the next thing. They haven't thought about upsetting you or anything like that. Okay. They don't mean to, and they don't think about it again. Okay. Their biggest fear is being taken advantage of. And why is that? Because they're all about being quick and giving everything to that person. So they don't tend to slow down to really understand what the qualities are of the person that they're dealing with. They just assume that they're like them. So if they end up helping that person or whatever, getting taken advantage of, they feel like they're wasting their time, and then they'll just cut them out of their lives. Whereas C will take time to kind of analyze everybody and see who they want to friend and have in their circle. The D's just assume you're like them, but then if they're taken advantage of, forget it, it's over. Because they don't want to take the time to slow down. Okay. And they're, like I said, they're quick to anger. They're motivated by challenges in the bottom line. So they love getting stuff done. So if you want to, if you have a significant other that you want them to do something around the house, challenge them to do something, or say you can't get it done by a certain time, and they'll probably get it done. Okay. All right. Okay. Again, they dislike wasting time. It will cause them stress. So then again, their dominant personality type will come out. If they feel like people wasting their time, like if they're in a meeting, let's say, they may get aggressive. They may just walk out or log off on Zoom. If they just feel like their time's being wasted, they're just out of there. Okay. So far, so good.
Mhm.
At social events, they'll go and talk to everyone, have a conversation, and then they leave. They're like, okay, I'm done. I talked to everyone. Let's go. They're not going to sit there and hang out and like party all night. Okay. They're in and out. Bye. See ya. Okay. On the phone, they will just jump into conversation without even saying hello. Okay. And they'll talk about what they want to talk about, not what you were calling them for. Okay. So let's say you called a D. They would say something like, oh, glad you called. I want to talk to you about this. Blah, 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 blah. And they just start talking about what they want to talk about. Okay. And then maybe at the end, if you're lucky, they'll say like, oh, did you need something? Like, what did you call for? Okay. So it's all about them. It's just the way that it is. It's super annoying. And it can be if you're not used to it. And people take their personality the wrong way, like they don't care. It doesn't mean that they don't. It's just they're super hyper focused on what they're doing and nothing else. Does that make sense?
I know somebody like that.
I know you do. He's not talking about me, by the way.
No.
Okay. All right. They kind of care about you after the fact, right? They want to talk about what they want to talk about, and then they'll care about you. Okay.
Maybe.
They're quick. They're cool. They're demanding. And that's just the way that they are. Okay. During lead generation, they'll not answer with, oh, hello. They'll be like, what's up? What do you need? Like, yeah, what? Hi, what? Not, oh, how you doing? Oh, great. How you been? Blah, blah, blah. They don't care. Not that they don't care, but again, they're fast, they're quick. They don't want to waste time. Okay. In the office or at home, they tend to have a lot of projects and stacks of paper everywhere. It looks super chaotic, but they know where everything is. Okay. They may have like awards hung up in their office. They're not afraid of bold colors. Okay. For listings, they get the information. and they give you hints on by their behavior style. So for instance, you would say something like, oh, describe your home for me. And a D would say something like, it's a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath colonial on a side street. That's it. Just the facts. Get to the point. Nothing else. They're not going to tell you any other details. They're not going to tell you what they updated or how great their house is. It's just 3 beds, 2.5 bath colonial. You'll know they're a D just by that. Okay. So that's a good question when you're lead generating and you're talking to somebody, to ask them to describe the home to you. You'll know pretty quickly what type of personality they are. Okay. Also based on their rate of speech and how loud or soft they are. Okay. So far, so good?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Buyers that are Ds. They're the best buyers to have, because they really won't waste your time driving around for everything, and they won't go in houses that they're not interested in. So if they pull up to a house and they notice they don't like the area, they don't like the way the house looks, maybe it's just like, you know, not even like taken care of outside or whatever the case is, they'll literally say to you, come on, let's go. We're not going in. I'm not buying this house. And then you leave. Don't make them go in. Okay. They don't want to go into anything they're not even going to think about buying, because why? It wastes their time. So they're the best buyers. Okay. The other 3 personalities will go in the house for fun. So we'll talk about that in a second. Okay. The D's, so they get a bad rap. Okay. All the personality types do. Okay. They get a bad rep thinking that they don't care about people, and it's not true. Okay. They do care. They have big hearts. In their mind, they figure that they show you that they care by getting things done. That's how they think that they're caring about you. Okay. So they may think like, if they think you don't care about them, or they hear that you say that, they may say, well, I just did these 3 things. How do they think of that? I don't care. Of course I care. Okay. Or I wouldn't have done them. All right. And people sometimes think that D's don't like them. They may think like, oh, I don't think that person likes me. It's, again, not the case. It's just they're not patient. They don't take the time to build the relationships. And that's why. Okay. Sometimes though, a D will appear to be something else than a D. Okay. And they only do that if it's going to benefit them. Okay. Because again, they don't like to slow down, but if they feel like they have to, they will for a short amount of time. So they feel that the fastest way to get something done may be to slow down. So if they're going on like a listing appointment or something like that, they know that if they're working with someone that's not fast and aggressive, that they need to kind of slow down and take it down a notch to build the relationship, because that's the fastest way that they're going to get that listing signed. Okay. Because if not, you know, they're going to have to do a lot of follow-up and whatnot to kind of repair them being so fast and aggressive. Okay. If you need to talk to them or tell them something, sometimes you'll know that some of the D's are really hard to like tell them something, especially clients. Okay. And they're in their own world. You don't want to slow them down, but you do want to kind of pin them down. So you'll say something like, listen, we're going to move really quickly through this, but I have 2 things I need to talk to you to make sure you're aware of. Okay. And then they'll usually listen to you. Okay. Like this is this and this. All right, let's get going. Okay. Then they understand that you understand that they don't want to waste time, but you obviously can't just not talk to them about the transaction or what's going on, right? But you want to condense the information into something where they can take that extra second to hear what you have to say. Okay. If the house doesn't sell, you can tell them like something like, hey, listen, these are 2 things, you know, this is what we're going to put it on for. This is how long, you know, I think we can be on the market for. And if the house doesn't sell, I'm going to ask you for a price pick after 2 weeks. Okay. And just kind of like bullet point it for them. And then tell them, hey, this is how I'm going to communicate with you. I'm going to text you, or I'm going to email you, or whatever. And they're going to appreciate you being quick. So then they will most likely hire you. Okay. So again, you want to mirror and match them. Okay. You don't want to be rude either, because some can be super rude. And if they are, then you're going to know right away, don't work with them. Don't do that to yourself. Okay. Bill had a situation, because he's on here, so I want to talk about it. His neighbor, he had listed the house a couple times, and she was a wicked flaming high D, you know, and just the communication wasn't working. And we talked about it after a disc class, and I'm like, you got to raise that D up. You're going to have to like tell her who's boss, because she thinks she's the boss right now, and you have to show her that you're the boss. And he did, and it was uncomfortable, right, Bill?
Very.
Super uncomfortable. But after you did that and you said, listen, this is the way it is, I'm the professional, blah, 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 she then backed down and listened to you moving forward, right?
She did. She just basically needed me to bring my level up to her, and just be convinced that she just needed to follow my direction.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But because
And
he
by the
wasn't
way,
acting.
Kristen was the one that introduced the crazy lady to my neighborhood in the first place. You don't tell that side of the story.
I had to sell the house. Hey, it was my seller. I didn't care who bought it. So yeah, but you don't want to be rude either. Okay. Because there's a fine line there about being, a little bit more aggressive when you talk to them than being, rude. Okay.
You got to maintain professionalism.
Exactly. All right. Woo! All right. So do you all know a D?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Several.
All right. Several. All right. So let's talk about the I's. So they're influencing, they're interactive, they're impulsive. Their key emotion is optimism. Okay. Their greatest fear is rejection, because they want everyone to like them. They're motivated by flattery and recognition, and they dislike being bored or routine. Okay. So these are people that you're attracted to. These are people that you notice when they walk into a room, you notice them. They bring a lot of energy, super high energy, and they have tons of influence. So again, they're more influential type of people. You'll notice, like, I'll use Kim Kardashian, like she's super influential, right? Because she's out there and she'll talk or whatever, and people just listen to her. So she's influential. She's just the first person that came to my mind. I have no idea why, but whatever. I'm sure I saw something on Instagram recently. Their key emotion is optimism. Okay. They love people. They love being fast moving. Okay. They get more energy when they're interacting with other people. They love meeting new people. They like to be the center of attention, and they want to interact with the most people as possible. So if they're at a party, they're talking to everybody. And if they hear somebody laughing over on the side and they want to get in on it, they'll go over there and listen to them. And so they'll come back to you, and they're all over the place. Okay. Their biggest fear is rejection. Okay. They know people all over, but they want people to like them too. Okay. I'll give you another example. Billy D in the Norwell office, he's a high I, and I know that. So I mess with him a lot. Like he'll call, like if we talk about something, we have like a little thing and we don't agree with each other or something, he'll call me back and I won't answer the phone. Because now he thinks I'm mad, which I'm not. I just messed with him and he knows it now, but whatever. But I do that because he wants to be liked. And I know that, so I let him suffer a little bit. So you can play around with people, but only if they're really good friends of yours. You don't want to do that to anybody, okay? But they don't want to be rejected by people, okay? They don't want people to think badly of them, okay? They're motivated by flattery and recognition. They tend to dress very nice. The high eyes, they're the ones that have like shiny objects. Like they have like the name tag with the rhinestones on them and really bold clothes and fur, and the guys have the socks with like the food all over them, right? Like just, they're all over. They just want people to look at them. They have fancy sunglasses or whatever, anything to draw people's attention, okay? So depending when you see those types, you can really understand how high their eye is, okay? So if they have those things, new fancy bright watch or the brand new iPhone, they want you to comment on it, then they're super high eyes, okay? Let's see, they dislike being bored and routine, okay? So they tend to like to have transaction coordinators because they don't like just the paperwork part of things. They just rather have someone else do it because like just the same old thing over and over again. They'd rather go out and talk to people, okay? They don't love checklists at all. They tend to need systems, tools, and models because they're all over the place, and they're not good with those types of things. Okay. They tend to drive nice cars and have pictures with famous people. Okay. So if they, like, for instance, if they go to family reunion, and you'll never get a picture of Gary Kellogg because he doesn't come out, but Mo Anderson or somebody, if they were out, they would run over them and have to take a selfie with them and post it on social media right away. Okay. They have to be around famous people and tell everybody about it. Okay. They have a lot of acquaintances and a small number of super close friends. And like I said, they like the new gadgets when they come out. Okay. They tend to have a lot of background noise. So if you call somebody on the phone and they have like kids yelling and the TV's on, or the radio's on, they could be a high I, because they don't, that distraction doesn't really bother them too much. Okay. They like colors. They like to have everything around where they can see it. So like if they have photos in their house, it's usually of, like I said, famous people, where they've traveled, or them with groups of friends. Okay, so if you see them like, oh, we went here, there's all of my friends, yeah, then that's a high I. Okay. They would never want to live in a closed floor plan home, because if the kitchen, there's a wall between the kitchen and the living room, and they're having a party and they're in the kitchen, they don't like that. So they want an open floor plan because they have to be around the people. It's true. Okay. That would just be and if they bought a house like that, they're taking that wall down super fast. Okay.
But as a high I, are they types of people that are like big on social media, like you were just saying, and like to post a lot of stuff that they're doing, show off like who they're with and what they're, yeah. Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. So as far as identifying somebody over the phone, when you ask them, tell me about your home, they'll usually say something like, it's a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath colonial on a side street. We do a lot of social events. I live in a cul-de-sac. We have parties with the neighbors and blah, 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 blah. Okay. It's so awesome. Our backyard's great, whatever. That's a high I. Okay. Buyers. So they will look at a home, even if they're not interested in it. So if they, it's funny because I do this all the time. So open the door and you're like, oh my God, this house is disgusting. Look at the floors, look at the walls. Ugh. Oh my God, let's go look at the rest of the house. Like, let's see how bad the kitchen is. Like, what's going on upstairs? And they'll move quickly through it. They won't spend all day, but they want to see what's going on in there. So again, when you're with your buyers, if you're like, oh, gross, but let's go see it, and they run around quick just to look at everything, then they're a high I. Make sense? Okay, awesome. Dealing with challenges. They have to talk everything out multiple times with different people. So if they're trying to make a decision on something, they may, talk to Margaret, then they'll talk to Tyler, whatever. Then they'll talk to, Dakota, and they're just kind of all over. Okay. So they want to make sure, and they may go back to the same person just to make sure that they're making the right decision, but they like to talk everything out. Okay. They get a bad rap too. Okay. People seem to think that they're better than everybody else because they like the spotlight, but it's not true. It doesn't mean they think they're better than everyone else. They actually have a low ego. People assume that they have a really large ego, but they don't. Okay. Sometimes like people say, oh, the party can start, I've arrived, like as if the party wasn't good before you got there, but it's just more of them building relationships with people. It's not that they really mean it. Okay. So they tend to worry that they're not good enough. So again, their ego is not high, even though they like the spotlight on them. Okay. How are we doing? Whew.
Good.
All right. Awesome. All right. S's. Let's talk about S's. So they're stable, steady, secure. They're slow moving. They're cautious. Okay. They're all about people and relationships, and they form relationships slowly. Okay. They're relational based. So they'll be like, hey, how are you? Can I get you a drink? What do you need? Okay. They talk about others, not themselves. So they're always asking somebody else about them. How are you? How's your family? Blah, blah, blah. Okay. It's always about someone else, not them. And when they bond with you for life. Okay. So they'll support and care for you for life, but it's not going to happen immediately because they need to feel you out and see if you are qualified to be in their group. Okay. They can't do it with everyone. They can be closed off, but they watch, listen, and learn. And they just want to see like who can be in my inner circle, but they are the most loyal people. And when you talk to them sometimes about something and they'll just like listen to you and you're like, are you in there? Like, how do you feel about this? Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? Are you happy about it? Are you sad about it? I don't know. They don't show their emotion. Okay. Everyone's laughing because you're like, I know someone like that. Okay. Their key emotions is they hide their emotion. Okay. Like I said, they want to watch people. They want to listen to them. They want to move slow. And they can sometimes come across cold because again, they're just being quiet and evaluating. They're not being in your face and loud. So people tend to think they could be cold. Okay. Their biggest fear is change or loss of security. Okay. So like to make a real estate move, if you're a high S and you meet with like, let's say a team leader to join Keller Williams, you're not joining that day and you're probably not joining that month. You're probably not even joining in 6 months. Okay. Because you have to take things slow. You want to make sure that there's benefits for you to make the move. And you really think things through. So keep that in mind with your clients, because if you're sitting down with someone and you identify them as an S, do not push them to sign the contract that night, because it's not going to happen. And it's really not going to happen if you push them, because then they're never calling you back again if you made them uncomfortable. So when you're dealing with them, let them know up front that you understand how they are without saying, hey, you're a high S, so I'm not going to make you sign this. You don't want to say that, but you want to say, I'm sure you want to take time to think about this and think about it overnight. Would it be okay if I called you tomorrow? They would love that. But if you try to push them to sign it, again, they're going to get stressed. Their dominant features are going to come out and they're going to shut down. Okay. So keep that in mind, super important. Okay. So the I's and the D's really need to slow down when you're dealing with the S's, and the S's are the biggest population group of the country is the S's. So everybody has to learn how to deal with S's because there's more of them. Okay. Okay. They use words like we. Okay. This is what we're going to do. Will we go over this? So when you're talking to them, just make sure you speak that way too. Like, we will make sure that you're okay with all the contracts before you sign them. You are now part of our team and we're going to work together. You know, those are the things that you need to talk to them about to make them feel included, that you're a team. Okay. They're motivated by benefits. So what's going to benefit them? Okay. Is it really worth making a change or not? Because they don't like change. They don't. So like if you live with an S, I mean, depending again how high they are, if they're super high S and you're like an I and you want to change the whole house around and repaint and move all the furniture, you probably don't want to do that without talking to them, because that might stress them out. Okay. On the phone, they'll give you a greeting, like a super warm greeting. They do prefer to be face-to-face instead of over the phone. So if you are dealing with somebody that's an S, you can always give them the option. Would you like me to come over and talk to you like face-to-face and go over the contract with you? Or would you like to do it over the phone? If they're super high, they want you to be face-to-face with them. Okay. When you're talking to them, don't go right into business. Talk about them, you know, build that relationship. Don't just start talking about what's going on with the business. Okay. So if you like, let's say you have a contract, an offer on their house, don't call them like, hey, I just got an offer on your house, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Hi, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. You know, build, you know, just be warm, talk to them about themselves, and then get into the business. Okay. If you need to talk to an S, let's say you're going to, you know, you only have 10 minutes and you have to call them and you only have a certain amount of time, don't call them until you have the time, because you're going to be on the phone with them longer than you think. Okay. All right. They like to use first names. They want to know you personally. So when you have a listing or buyer presentation, you want to put your bio in there because they want to know about you. They want to know personal stuff about you. Okay. Because they want to build that relationship. They want to connect with you. Okay. If you are going on vacation and you need an agent to cover you, it's super important for you to go over each client with them and tell them what personality type they are. Because if not, they may not talk to the client the way that they need to be spoken with, and you could end up getting them very upset and maybe even losing a listing or losing a client over it. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay. Okay. At home, they have a lot of framed family photos everywhere. They like to sit side by side. So they may, like if you say, hey, let's go sit at the kitchen table, they may say, oh no, let's go sit on the couch. Okay, that's more of an S. Okay. When you ask them to describe their home for you, they will tell you a story about the house. It's a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath colonial. We bought this home 30 years ago. We raised our kids here. They went to this school. They did this, blah, 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 blah. Bill's like, yes, that's me. Yeah. So,
Thinking about my listing appointment the other day, I was there for 3 hours and the lady gave me a tour of every last inch of the house.
yep. And you ended up getting that listing, and you went on that appointment. You came to the office and you said to me, I wanted the appointment, but I didn't have her sign the contract because I knew she wasn't going to sign it, right? Because of her personality type.
Yep.
And you ended up getting the listing. And she liked you the most out of the other 2 people she interviewed.
So she said.
Yep. Well, she wouldn't have said it if she didn't mean it.
Right.
But that's because he understood her better than the other 2 did. Okay. When you're working with buyers that are S, they will walk through the entire home, whether they like it or not. If they do like the home, they'll want to sit in the home and discuss it with you. So if they're really considering putting an offer in, they may sit on the couch and you will do that and they will just start talking to you and you just have to be patient. Okay. Because that's one step closer to them writing an offer. Okay. They want to make memories in the home. So that's why they want to feel comfortable in there before they make a decision. Okay. They get a bad rap too. Okay. They come across very guarded. Okay. Cold and guarded. Again, you don't know where they stand on anything because they hide their emotions. And they only have so many people to bring into their world. Okay. If you pour into your S clients, they will refer you a ton of business. You'll never go hungry because they will do anything for you and they will protect you. And they will refer business to you because you're in their circle. Okay. So far, so good?
Yeah.
All right. C is for compliance. So the C's, they're compliant, they're correct, they're controlled. Okay. They want to make sure that the things that they're doing are done right. And that is their number one concern, that everything's right. So sometimes they get ready to get ready, or they won't get something done until it's right. Okay. Their key emotion is fear and risk aversion. Their key emotion. Their biggest fear is criticism. They're motivated by correctness and they dislike being wrong or for things to be wrong. Okay. So with their key emotion, they come across cold because they're slowly trying to determine if this is the right decision for them or not. And they don't communicate their fear. They just stay quiet about it. Okay. They would rather not make a decision than make the wrong decision. So they will analyze everything. So again, in this crazy market where it's like literally show the house, write the offer and hurry up. They don't like that. So if you're like, well, we got to get it done. You got to put it in. Oh my God, it's got to be in by 8 o'clock. This one, the deadline is, they don't like that. So they're going to either shut down, They're going to take longer, and they're probably going to miss out on some stuff because they don't want to make the wrong decision. And buying a house is a huge decision. Okay. Their biggest fear is criticism. So being wrong about something, if they feel rushed, like I said, they'll shut down or they'll fire you. Okay. They're motivated by correctness. So don't give the client fuzzy or wrong information. So for instance, let's say you're in a property and they look up and they see a water stain on the ceiling, and you say to them, they say, "Oh, what do you think that is?" And you say something like, "Oh, well, the bathrooms are up there, so it's probably the plumbing, maybe the toilet overflowed or something like that." Okay. The C is thinking in their head, how do you know it was the toilet? It could have been the window. It could have been a fire sprinkler. It could have been the tub. It could have, whatever. That's what they're thinking in their head. They're not going to tell you that because, again, you don't know what's going on in there. But they could be thinking that. And now they're thinking, what is this person talking about? They don't even know what they're talking about. And that's how you'll lose the C clients. Okay. So the way that you need to talk to them would be, you know what? That's a great question. We'll make sure that we have the home inspector take a look at that. And I'll also call the listing agent and see if they could, ask the seller what they think that is. So we'll make sure that we get the right answers for you. Is that okay? Okay. You got to speak their language. Don't just pretend like you know everything because you think that's what they want to hear. Like, oh, that's mold, that's this. Look at how, they don't want to hear that. You could, if you go into a house, let's say with skylights. Okay. So you're showing them a property and you're like, oh my God, look at these skylights. Aren't they great? Oh my God, this is beautiful. Look at all the sun that comes in. You know what they're thinking? Skylights. Doesn't she know that they leak? Do you know that's going to cost me more money? That's what they're thinking. So you really don't want to, when you're with buyers, you just want to walk around with them and let them look. Okay. Don't go over, sell the house. Okay. Over the phone, they'll be very formal. They don't use nicknames. They'll say, hello, this is Michael. Not like, hey, it's Mikey. Okay. They get to the point. If they get stressed, they'll dig their heels in and retain their ground. Okay. So again, if it's a situation where you're trying to rush them into a decision, their dominant trait will come out, which is the C. They're going to feel stressed and they're going to shut down and you're going to get nowhere with them. And you may even lose them as a client. Okay. So again, when you're working with them before they have to make a big decision, they may just be like, hey, we get along great. Everything's fine. But when they're under stress, that's when you think, whoa, this person changed. What's going on? That's why. Okay. At home, they're very organized. They like monochromatic colors. Okay. They like things labeled. The electrical panels labeled, the spice racks labeled, everything's labeled. Depending on how high they are, they have all their clothes color coordinated. All their socks are folded in the drawer perfectly. Okay. When you ask them to describe your home, they'll say it's a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath colonial. And then they'll start talking about all the mechanical features that they have. We just upgraded the electrical panel to 200 amps. We have a 4-bedroom septic and that was pumped on Thursday and all that stuff. So all of the mechanical things they'll talk about. And yet they'll have an old kitchen, but they didn't replace it because it's not important and they don't make things like they used to and there's nothing wrong with it. So why replace it? Okay, that's their mindset. Okay. Okay. They're quiet when they walk into a room. They'll look up and down, sideways, just kind of looking at everything when you're showing them a house. That's what they're looking at. Okay. So just let them do their thing. And when they're done, we'll move on to the next room. Okay. All right. You also want to say things like, do you have any questions that I can clarify for you? Let me write them down and get back to you on that. Okay. So don't assume that you know everything because they know you don't live in that house. Okay. They get a bad rap. That they have unreasonable expectations. Okay. They come across cold and hard to please. And it's just because they want things done right. Okay. They're protecting themselves and other people's by making sure that things are right and not wrong. Okay. So that's why they're like that, is to protect people. They tend to be engineers or accountants. Okay, maybe computer software people. Okay.
Realtors.
Some realtors, yeah. All right. Hey. All right, missing a slide. Okay, whatever. Okay, oh no, I didn't put it in. Okay, so that's about 17% of the population. So based on a nationwide survey that they did, but based on dominant traits, 69% of the population's S's, 17 are C's, 11 are I's, and 3 are D's. 3% are D's. Okay. It seems odd because you probably know a lot of D's, and that's just because they're always in your face. And it seems like 3% seems very low, but if you take everybody in consideration, plus we live in Massachusetts and, you know, everyone's all high strung anyways. All right. So let's talk about relationships. So the hardest relationships are going to be the D's and the S's. Those are going to be the 2 relationships that are going to be the hardest to deal with. So if you're a high D, you're going to really have to learn to slow down and be able to accommodate the S's. And if the S wants to work with a high D, they're going to have to do the same. Okay, so those are the 2 that are hardest to deal with. Because remember, the D's and the I's up top, they're fast and loud, and the C's and D's are task oriented. So the S's are really on the outside there, as far as that's concerned. Okay. Now, D's and S's marry each other all the time. I won't say anything more about that. Okay, and the I's and the C's, they have a tougher time with each other, okay? Because the I wants to talk all the time and they're loud and they don't care, like, yeah, let's wing it. And the C's are like, I'm quiet, I'm task oriented, and I'm not winging anything. So they have a harder time dealing with each other, okay? Okay. If you're talking to a client, because usually you'll have one of each will be the married couple. Let's say if you're going on a listing appointment, one will be, you know, a D and the other will be an S or whatever it is, right? So the way that you kind of balance dealing with them, because it's obviously hard to talk to this, you know, a couple in 2 different ways, right? So you always want to talk more. 60% of your conversations are going to be more of the dominant style. And 40% of your conversations will be the opposite style. And you can ask them like, hey, if there's a real estate emergency, who should I call first? And you'll know right away because the dominant one will say, call me first. That's going to be the most dominant person. Don't assume that the most dominant person is like the D or the I though. It could be the S or the C. And again, it's probably the C in that case, right? So that's just something that you can ask them. Okay. How are we doing?
I'm good.
All right.
Great.
Whew. Sorry. It's like 5 million degrees in this office right now. All right. So now we're going to go over an elevator script with you. Okay. I'm going to have you just listen to it. And then I'm going to go back to the slides. Okay. And if you want a copy of it, you can email me and I'll send you the copy so you don't have to write it all down right now. Okay. Ready? All right. So this is going to be the fastest way to determine, again, who you're dealing with. Okay. There's a lot of different things, how they talk, you know, how loud or soft they are. This is another way to kind of find out like who you're dealing with. So you may want to say something like this to your clients. Hey, I want to ask you one more question. And I know it's going to appear like it's nothing to do with real estate, and yet I promise you it will make sense. Well, you'll make the connection, okay? Okay. I want you to pretend that today is a normal, regular day. You're not stressed and not in a rush. You are entering into an office building and there's an elevator. There are 4 types of people that go into the elevator, and I want you to tell me which one is most like you on a normal, regular day. Person A walks in, pushes the floor that they want to go to, and just keeps pushing it and pushing the button until it closes, till the door closes. Okay. Person B, they walk in and push their floor and put their arm out to keep the door open to see if there's anybody in the lobby, any chicks there that need to get in. So they hold the elevator for everybody. Okay. Person C walks in, pushes the floor, and by the time they get to the floor, they have talked to everyone and told them where they're going and what they're doing. Person D walks in, pushes their floor, and stands in the back corner. They're reading the weight capacity and calculating how much everybody weighs to see if they're going to crash and burn. Okay, so which one are you most like on a normal day? Okay, so let's have fun with this. I know you guys are going to nail this. All right. Can you see my screen?
There's
Yep.
elevator script.
All right, elevator script. So push the button over and over again. Which personality type is that? You can unmute. This is where we're going to interact.
D.
D, yes. All right. Holds the door to let the chicks in the elevator. And I don't mean like women. I mean like little baby chickens. Okay.
S.
S. All right. Talks to everyone, lets them know who they are, what they're doing, where they're going.
I.
I. And they stand back in the corner, calculate the weight capacity.
C.
C. Okay. You know why they're in this order? Because when you say this to them, they're going to tell you, you're going to know exactly. So for instance, when you start talking about this and you start to say, okay, person A, the D's going to say, yeah, that's me. Like they don't want to hear the rest of the story. Okay. The C's want to hear all the options first. So that's why you put them at the end, because they want to decide which one they are, because they want to hear it all. Make sense?
Yeah.
Cool, huh? So that's the order in which you want to do that, because the D, if you put the D, push the button over and over again at the end, you've already lost them when you said, hey, can I, ask you a question? They don't want to hear the whole story. Okay. Funny, right?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I know that was a lot of information. Do you guys have any questions for me? Talk about any personality types that you've run into or how to handle something.
I thought it was great. I got to pinpoint my husband's personality type. That's why I was laughing a lot.
Oh yeah, of course.
But I like the breakdown, and I actually was on a listing appointment on Saturday, and I walked away feeling like I talked too much and I didn't ask enough questions. And so this was really important for me to go through this exercise, and because that listing appointment was unplanned and it happened, just happened. So this is really good stuff. Are you going to be able to share the slides? Would you do that, or are they just, yeah?
Oh, I can, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, it's like, you have to know yourself, and you need to know like how much time you need. So you're not rushing into something and then not being prepared and not knowing what you're walking into, and then feel like you didn't do a good job. Right.
Totally.
So it's super important to like understand, and like, when you're making calls too, like if you have a client that likes to talk for a long time, like you have to plan ahead for that. Don't call them when you only have 5 minutes, and then they can tell that you're getting aggravated because you need to get off the phone because you have an appointment. Like, don't bother calling them.
Yeah.
I reserve those calls for when I get in the car and I know I've got like a 30-minute ride somewhere.
Exactly. Yep.
Tyler said he's got a question.
He does.
No?
You think I have a question?
You look like you did. You look.
I was just agreeing.
So I have a question, Kristen. When this is a lot to take in and assess, and let's just say you've got a husband and wife that you're meeting with on a listing appointment that have 2 different discs. So you're sizing up 2 people, and you kind of have to communicate almost 2 different levels or 2 different methods.
Yeah, you totally do. Yeah. It's important too that you have them sit across from you, so you're looking at both of them. I mean, you should do that anyways, no matter what. Because if you've got one person on the left and one person on the right, you're kind of going like this and moving your papers back and forth. So you want them to sit across from you. And again, you'll be able to understand what their personality type is. That's why we recommend doing like a pre-listing list of questions. you know, to determine who they are. And once you do that, you'll know, okay, this one's a high D and this one's a high S. So I need to talk about certain things that the D is going to want to hear about very quickly, and then move to the S and be like, oh, you know, and kind of talk in their language. Okay. So it is a balancing act, but they'll both end up liking you because you can adapt to each one of them. That's why sometimes, like when agents go on listing appointments and like there's two different people, they're like, oh, well, I really like you, but my husband wants to do something else. It's because you didn't build that relationship with that other party, you know, with the husband at that time. So yeah, it is tough, but you know, again, if you ask them these questions, like we talked about, you know, say, hey, if there's a real estate emergency, which one would you know, who would I call first? Then you can automatically see who the dominant one is and focus more on that, but yet you like 60%, but you really need to take that other 40 and really deal with the other personality too. And, you know, sometimes the other person may say, just deal with her or just deal with him. And they'll just sit there and they're like, whatever, just you make the decisions. And then you can just do your presentation that way. But you definitely want to include them in it as well, you know, without completely shutting them out.
I think I did have a question, Bill. You're right. Do you have any metrics on like realtors and what kind of what percentage of realtors fall into different disc categories?
I don't. You know, it's funny because you would think that like certain personality types are better realtors. It just means that they do lead gen differently and they work with clients differently. Okay. So like you would think like a high I would be really great and a high D because they're driven and the I's talk a lot, but it doesn't mean the C's and the S's aren't good either. Right. It's just they lead generate and deal with people in a different way. So even though the D's tend to be more goal driven, they do more, they're more focused on what they're doing. They tend to just do, where the S's and C's will like kind of get ready to get ready, but it doesn't mean you can't be successful. We all have all 4 personality types in us. And when we need to use a personality type that's under the line, it's like a rubber band. So it's a little uncomfortable for us, but doesn't mean we can't do it. Okay. So for instance, like if I'm a high ID, okay, I'm not a big numbers person, charts, graphs, or whatever. So if I'm going on an appointment with a C, I have to remember, Kristen, you need to really pay attention to, you need to get a net sheet. You need to pay attention to the market. You need to bring all this data more than you would normally bring, because that's what that person likes. Because if I don't, they think I don't understand them. I'm not getting the listing. So I have to do more work. It's not like I can do it really quickly. It's going to take me a little bit more time because I'm not comfortable doing that, but I can still do it. Okay. Just like a D, if you're a low D and then something happens with your family or your child or whatever, and you need to like lose your mind, you can do that and get really quick to anger, even though you don't do that all the time. It can be done. Okay. So at some point you may be in that situation. People are like, oh my God, they never flip out like that. Well, that means it's serious because they don't normally do that. So you better listen because something's wrong. Right. The S's and C's are really great friends and they do a lot of like research. So they're really good friends with the D's and the I's. So like I have a neighbor who, well, she moved, but she was definitely like an SC and she put a fence up and I wanted a fence because I got my new dog, but I didn't want to get all these estimates and call all these people and have them at the house. So I just called her and said, who did you use? Because I knew she already did all that work. So I asked her who she used, she told me, and then I just called them and they put the fence up. So they're good to, you know, have, they're more in the research kind of aspect. So just a little kind of side note on that. They tend to like when they buy cars, the I's and D's, they do it quickly. Oh, it looks good. I like the price. Great. Smells good. Has all these like features. Great. I'll buy it. With the S's and C's, will research and Google and go to different dealerships and compare each car, and they take forever. Does that sound familiar?
Mhm.
Yep. So it's pretty fascinating. It really is.
I hope you guys find this important to understand. I wish I kind of had a better handle on this several years ago when I was dealing with a very high D client, and we got everything done, but looking back on it, I realized I could have done better if I identified her as a high D and addressed her in a different way.
Mhm.
I mean, she was giving me all the signs of a high D, like, what's the plan? How long are we going to be on market? What are we going to sell it for? What do we need to do? And that was her high D just screaming at me.
Yeah.
And I probably treated her more like an S.
Right. And were you stressed out dealing with her?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So that's the other thing too, is like, if you're going to get stressed out and not enjoy what you're doing, then don't work with the person, refer them out. You don't have to work with them. If you're like, listen, I don't want to deal with this. Life's too short. I got other things going on. I'll refer it out, but I am not dealing with this crap. Then do that. Don't just get in that situation because you want to have a closing. You know what I mean? It's not worth it. If you can handle them, then do it. But if you can't, don't want to, then don't. Yes, Margaret.
What is like the key question you would ask to determine quickly what they are? Like, how long does that take?
Well, I guess, is it like, would it be a listing? Would it be a buyer?
Say a listing, a listing.
Yep. So you could just ask, like I said earlier, you could just ask them, tell me about your house.
Okay. And then you'd be those questions.
Oh yeah. And you'll know pretty quickly too, when they start talking, right?
Mm.
Because if they're loud and fast, they're either a D or an I. If they're
Okay.
slow and quiet, they're either an S or a C.
Okay.
The I's have a lot of inflections, like, oh my God, look at that, da, da, da. Oh my God, oh my, like they're all over the place. Then it's an I.
I'm sure there's a class to relate to how we can better ourselves with what our scores were.
I don't necessarily have a class, but I mean, if you read the report that you have,
yeah,
and you understand, like, hey, this is how you work best, this is what you need to work on, kind of thing. Like for instance, I said earlier, I like to talk, but I only like to talk when I like to talk.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm busy and I don't have time, I don't want to talk, because I am also a high D. So that's why sometimes I'm like, I'll sit down and talk to you for an hour, and then other times, like, yeah, what, okay, bye. It's because my D is really high at the moment. But I talked a lot when I was with my clients too. So I would have a paper on my wall that said WAIT, wait. And I'd always have to look at it and say, why am I talking?
Mm-hmm.
Stop talking. So it's taken a lot for me to stop talking and just listen. You have 2 ears, 1 mouth for a reason. And we should be asking more questions and not assuming. So again, when you read your, what there is about you, and if there's something that you want to change,
yeah,
focus on that.
Okay.
It's going to be a little difficult. Like I said, I try super hard to lower my D. And I'm like, after I'm like, oh my God, like, chill out. Like, what is wrong? Why? Like I'm aware of it and I want to change it. And it's just really hard. It's really hard. And I'll say to people, like, how I am, that's how I am. Like, but sometimes, like, you have to be in the right place. But like, if I'm in a situation, like if I'm at a social event for work, like put it this way, if I'm in a social event with like my friends, I'll be like, talking, whatever, having fun. But if I'm with work people and it's not appropriate to be like drinking and whatever, then I lower my I a lot.
Mm.
And that's, it's not hard for me to do because I want to be professional, whatever. But I do that. So I do act different in different situations. So you do have your adaptive style and you have your natural style on that sheet. And they're usually pretty similar, except your normal style is usually, your natural style is usually a little higher in the categories than
Yeah.
when you're at work. So like my D's way higher at home than it is at work because I'm working with my peers and whatever. I can't be like telling you what to do, but I can
Yeah.
tell my kids what to do, right? So even though they're up there, maybe a little lower when you're at work.
Super interesting. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hi,
Oh my
Bill.
God, it's 2:18? Holy
know.
moly. Sorry, guys. I totally lost track of time.
That's okay. It was good.
Nobody went like this. Hey.
No, it's important to take the time to learn this stuff.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I tried to change up a little bit from last time. That's why at the beginning I was like kind of trying to stick with my new slideshow because I want to kind of make it a little different. But hopefully you guys learned something. And if you
Yeah.
want a copy of the slides or if you want a copy of the elevator speech, just email me, Kristen Bucher at KW, 2 I's
Thank you
in my
so
first
much.
name. You're welcome, and I'll send it over to you.
Thanks, Kristen.
Have a good day.
You're welcome. Bye. Have a good
Yes,
day.
appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.